Thanks for joining us. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission says that electronic transmission of results has come to stay in Nigeria. INEC's National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, in a statement says the procedure for result transmission remains the same as in recent governorship elections in Ekiti and Osun states. He says there will be no change in all future elections, including the 2023 general elections. Now, the statement was issued against the backdrop of media reports claiming that the commission had dumped electronic transmission of results for manual transmission. Okoye states that the entire gamut of result management which is provided for in sections 60, 62, and 64 of the Electoral Act 2022 permits the use of electronic transmission of election results. Well, for more on this, we have joining us some key leaders in the civil society space. We have the chairman of the Partners for Electoral Reform, Emmanuel Njoku, and also joining us here is the Director of Governance at Connected Development, Emmanuel Njoku. So good to have you, gentlemen. So, in what looks like a trend of misinformation, Emmanuel Njoku, it looks like people are not really following INEC's decisions over time, because I know that on the transmission of election results, INEC dedicated a particular time, sometime around April or so, to enlighten Nigerians on the procedure. But how could a lot of Nigerians, even some enlightened ones, have been caught up in this sort of issues that we saw during the weekend here in Nigeria, stating that INEC had dumped electronic transmission of election results and it was back to using manual?
Well, Sambo, you know, election is governed by regulations, rules, and law. And what has happened over a period of time is that many people who play in the election environment do not even take time to understand those laws, those guidelines, including those who are candidates of political parties. You'll be shocked that if you interrogate some of them, you will see the level of ignorance that runs through, you know, conversations around a theater in which they are active players. Since 2007, our election has taken a very we've had incremental progress since 2007, when President Musa Yar'Adua, you know, avowed to the fact that the process that brought him was flawed, and we did set up the Justice Uwais Electoral Commission. From that period onwards, you've had a commission that is reform-minded, that is reform responsive, if you like, and not many people have bothered. Many people have stayed in that place where you are voting, and the result of where you know the polling unit where you are voting is already being announced. Many have stuck themselves there and have refused to make any to shift that. In fact, my position is that people have written statements about how 2023 election has been rigged already, and it's coming from, first of all, active ignorance and then mischief. Sometimes it is not that people don't know. Many who know are playing politics. They want to heat up the polity, because it's a very simple thing. If you know, you didn't need Festus Okoye to tell you that the process is governed by section 60 and all of those places that it talks about.
The new Electoral Act.
Yes, and INEC cannot deviate from it. If it deviates, there's also a portion of the Electoral Act that says if you don't transmit electronically, it is seen as dereliction of duty, and then you can even go to jail.
Yeah, I mean, the punitive measures are
very clear.
Clearly stated.
So and you know, one of the biggest shocks for me is that ignorance parades as authority here. When you see people say they are celebrities, they think they can talk on every issue, you know, on the ground. So basically, there is no need for this at all. Results are collated manually and transmitted electronically. It's simple. So if the INEC chairman says results are collated manually and transmitted electronically, and you stop at collated manually and you didn't add the transmitted electronically, when you go to vote, after you're voting, the process of election is known. There is the opening of the polls, there is accreditation and voting, there is collation of results, okay, there is declaration, then you make a return. And when you do that, there's a form E60 E8, so from E68, where you put in those results manually and then you transmit it. So what did that cut out? It cut out your taking, results from the polling unit to the ward to the local government, as we used to have in the past. And we used to say that collation is the weakest
link.
So now this by, anytime you hear by, you are talking about two. So you are talking about technology and manual. So when you get to the state collation center, if it is a governorship election, if it is a general election, presidential election, at the end of the day, somebody has to check both what has come manually and what is transmitted electronically, and then tick it that it's together. And then real time, people can also now through the
result viewing
portal, follow those results, as you have seen in Ekiti. And that result viewing portal has always been there. It is not, before Ekiti and the IREF has always existed. So it is not anybody's fault so it's just a matter of popularizing the IREF now. And that is why you saw even in Osun State, because more people knew about it, that was why you had a slog. And immediately that slog happened, they say, something is happening.
All right. Very interesting perspective you brought to it. And I come to you, Emmanuel Njoku. A lot of young people seem to be saying that INEC seems to be capitulating to the political class. If you read comments online and things that were said after this information came out, despite INEC's explanation through a statement, some people are choosing not to believe the institution. What do you make of that, thinking that INEC is beginning to bend towards the political class?
You see, for me, the game is changing in different ways. So even the young people we are talking about are more interested in elections and the outcome of elections more now. So what you saw yesterday or 2 days ago, I will rather call it mischief from the point of the media house that reported it. The headline of that report was misleading in any ways. But if you are detailed or concerned enough to open the content of the report, you will see that, there is nothing new. And clearly that headline was misleading. But however,
clickbait.
Yeah, just a clickbait to get people to see it. But however, so INEC need to also take a cue from what has happened to understand that it's no longer just the politicians and just the electoral stakeholders basically that are interested in the process. The young people are more interested. There is a program going on TV, national DSTV right now, that they do every year. The usual, what's it called? The Big Brother show that they're doing. Typically in the past, you see when these shows are going on, so every day you see trends around the Big Brother conversation. But these days, I tell people, why is it that this show is not popular? And every young person tells you because it's about the elections that are coming. It shows that people are more interested in the elections. So going forward, as INEC also continues to engage the media, which is the good thing to do, they should also ensure that there is clarity at every point in time when they are giving this information. Fake news and misinformation with technology, WhatsApp, Facebook, it spreads so fast. So once anything comes out, everybody everybody runs with it. Nobody bothers to check what is the details of this conversation. They just see the headline. I'm in different WhatsApp groups. All I was seeing was just that headline, headline. There was no where any person sent the full content. Even when you send the URL link, most people don't look at it. So the good thing is a good thing. I say this because young people are interested right now in the electoral process. They may not know the details, frankly. Myself, yourself, Mr. Zenwa here, I'm not sure I know the details of the Nigerian Constitution, clearly. So they may not know the Section 60, Section 62, and Section 64, like the INEC commissioner mentioned. No, they don't have to know all of that, but they understand before now that transmission is going to be electronic. But the point coming to say collation is going to be manual, and the media house reported it that way without people looking at the details. Maybe a bit misleading and confusing. But however, nothing has changed, as the commissioner and INEC has said. Nothing has changed. So let Nigerians. Okay. You know the evil in this kind of misinformation. It has a way of creating that doubt
Yeah, I mean, some people are already saying that 2023 is already rigged.
A lot of Nigerians are very excited about the elections, about participation in the election. That's why we see that surge of people going to register to vote. So this kind of misinformation must be managed. And I commend INEC for quickly coming out to release that press statement to say, this is not always, this is what it is. Because when you allow this kind of thing to fester, frankly, it can cause voter apathy. Because a lot of people are coming out to vote because they believe that the election, that their votes are going to count in 2023. If for any reason of fake news, misinformation, they now begin to believe that this thing is not going to count, they will rather abstain and stay at home. So it's good to continue to tackle
voter apathy.
Yes, voter apathy. So we must continue to tackle.
And I want to throw the same question to you. There's this belief now from this sort of misinformation that INEC is beginning to kowtow to the political class and maybe even the governing APC and all of that. And I mean, I was having a conversation with someone who was like, 2023 is already rigged. I said, there is no how. Based on what we have seen and all of that as a journalist, but when you see some of us in the media space also reporting information in certain aspect, it creates that doubt within such kind of people. How do we correct the impression that INEC is on the right track? And is INEC really on the right track?
Well, it's not my work to speak for INEC.
Yeah, but at least from what you are saying, I'm monitoring.
I just needed to put that background clearly. But I also know that you see, a lot of people are hiding under one finger, whether they are in the media, in the civil society. Partisans do not care about outcomes. I mean, partisans are fully about outcomes. So when you see a politician is not interested in process. He's interested in the outcome.
Who won and who lost.
So, but for those of us who work in this space, we are interested in the process. What is the process? What is the law? Has the law been followed? In all the issues that are on play as it regards to INEC, what needs to happen is to put it side by side, the regulations and the law, and find out whether they are following those things. The cure for mischief is knowledge. And there is nothing like carrying me along in it. You see, we are always talking about, voter education. When people decide to be mischievous, there is no amount of information that you throw out there that helps them. There's another part in which the only time election is free, fair, credible is when opposition wins. And that is not true. You understand? The fact that it is possible for position to win and election to be credible, and it is also possible for opposition to win and for election not to be credible. So we need to understand the fact that until more and more Nigerians get acquainted with the Electoral Act 2022 and look at the issues, what does this say about some of the things you want to talk about? If you're a journalist, Emma and we've been involved in training people. You'll be amazed that you have political editors who have no time in the whole of this, they have not bothered to look at.
Yeah, we are in the eye of the storm too, as journalists. Because, sometimes
and so you are having conversations.
We have to do the best.
You are having conversations in training, and then the man talks, and you say you are a political editor. What are you telling people? You understand what I'm saying? For me, is that it's not just, and this. Emma was talking about the fact that young people don't have to know about Section 60 in the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act is not written in esoteric language.
Yeah, and I was beginning to wonder if it is only written for legislators and those
I said it's not written in esoteric language. It is there on you can download it, you can just follow it piecemeal. It's helpful. The media organizations that cast headlines, that even give vent. I saw some headlines today. High-ranking people still talking about that. The media organizations that even give vent to that themselves are interested in selling their this thing rather than putting out the truth, which is the hallmark of journalism. But let's not put that blame there. Let's begin to talk about how citizens themselves can be interested in knowing process. If you understand the process, the outcome will not be important.
And there won't be political violence when eventually the outcome is announced, whether it goes
whichever way it goes.
Or it goes Z.
I agree.
And let's talk about the critical role of political parties in educating the populace, because it's not the job of INEC alone. Political parties and their members, don't they have forum where they educate at least their followership on certain things. I mean, even before INEC posts as an information, shouldn't a political party say, based on what INEC told us, based on the laws by the National Assembly and what we have seen, this is what the law states. And so this is what it should be at the moment. This is what you should know as our members and all of that. What is the role of political parties in public education when it comes to elections?
So public education, voter education, is not, like he has said, it's not just INEC or civil societies. In fact, the key people that are supposed to engage in voter education is supposed to be political parties, because they are the first beneficiaries of votes in an election. But frankly, from my experience and from what I know and from the engagements we've had, most of these political parties and the actors don't even understand this electoral act, and that's where I have a problem. Beyond the regular citizen who thinks that his party is just to come out to election day and cast his vote. But for most political parties and actors, first of all, they don't have that coordination of voter education. Some of these things are done by just individuals running for office. And like you said, these guys most times, they only know the process. And that's frankly the truth. Most political parties always look at the processes to identify where the gaps and the loopholes are, so that they can, find a way to beat the process to be able to win. That's why I was talking about the outcome in this process. So that's what most politics. So I don't think, and I'm not aware, and I've not been part of, I've not witnessed any training carried out largely by political parties across the country. I've not seen that. But what they usually do, I'm aware, is just training of party agents, just to tell them the part that they need to do, which boils down to the same outcome. This is basically what these guys are interested in.
Well, sometimes they also wait for NDI and IRI to come from abroad.
See,
but
example,
which is the situation we've always
used to have what they call People's Democratic
Institute, yes, the training arm of
the organization, and that came from the fact that the parties, the post-independence parties, had training platforms where they train what they call cadres. So if you were going to be a member of the action group, you were trained. Okay. So you did it. So, but today the fluidity of, membership of political parties makes it useless, because you can be this in the morning and be another in the evening. And it is not about, there are people who today are members of different political parties. Ask them, because those political parties actually have manifestos, they have guidelines, they have constitution. So if you join this morning, you may never have come in contact with the document where even the rules and regulations that guide your membership as a member of that political party is concerned. So we need to revisit those things. If you had a platform where you can train people and people can make a career, you understand? And offices in political parties are not for patronage. So every political interest in Nigeria is, you find example of it in the offices that people occupy. If somebody is national organizing secretary, they can tell you who is representing as national organizing secretary. If he's national secretary, they can tell you who is representing. And in that kind of situation, you can't build this kind of
when those political offices are distributed amongst top
cronies and for patronage.
And all of that. Now, I'm interested, Njoku, in enlightening our viewers about the INEC results portal. A lot of Nigerians don't know that if you are able to monitor this portal, you can be able to get minute by minute, results as it's happening. I followed it during some of the senatorial elections, and of course before the Ekiti, and then of course Osun elections, and I found it very interesting. You would have to go register, and then as results are coming in, you'll be viewing it and all of that. In the face of the explanation by INEC now, how do we encourage a lot of Nigerians to ensure that they make use of these resources that are provided? I mean, it's online for people to register and view results as part of the electronic transmission chain of results that will be seen.
So going forward, as we move to the 2023 general election, and as part of voter education, citizens should understand that one of the key things that they need to do is not just to be at the polling unit when to cast their votes. They have to wait for them to, when they finish sorting and counting, and those numbers of votes are imputed in that form EC8A, which is the polling unit result.
Yeah.
And they should also ensure that the presiding officer transmits, because that is very key. And if you understand the Electoral Act tells you that at every level of collation, so there is collation at ward level, From the ward level, it goes to local government collation level before it goes to state level and then national level for a national election. It depends on the election anyways. Now, at any point in time in this collation process, from what the Electoral Act and the INEC guidelines says, that there's any confusion or they cannot be able to resolve results from the physical results that must also be brought to the collation center. From the manual results that have been brought, yes, manual results that have been brought to the collation center, that the returning officer or the collation officer will use the results transmitted electronically and the number of accredited voters transmitted electronically through the beavers to collate and announce the results. So it is important that citizens do not just know the IREV, but that it's important that they should watch over what is transmitted from that polling unit.
Yeah, because the polling unit results usually come early enough.
That will go all the way to the final collation. That result that comes from that polling unit will go. So a lot of changes, like he has said, there's been a lot of upgrade and improvement in the electoral processes in the past few years. Now about the IREV. While, like he said, the last election, there was a bit of surge, and it has been there, but people didn't know. Now, this is the part where INEC needs to prepare ahead of time. I don't know if they have a timeline where people are supposed to register before time so they'll be able to access the IREV. Now, this is a national election. In a state election, because a lot of people keyed in to check the results, the system became very slow. The portal couldn't and it became very difficult to download results. So, I think it's about bandwidth. INEC needs to be able to anticipate that all the people, because this in an election, now if you're running for office, I believe you should have a situation room where you are picking results as they are dropping. So, if all the people running for National Assembly offices, State Assembly offices, that's a lot of numbers and different candidates and different political parties running for offices with their situation rooms are monitoring, citizens are monitoring. INEC needs to ensure that there's enough bandwidth for people to be able to see them. Lastly, I think the interface of that INEC result portal is not that friendly or that easy for you to be able to track these results as they come. Even to download some of these results when they come is so difficult. Some of these things is what I believe INEC and the ICT department need to put in place ahead of. If they have to give a timeline that, hey, you have to register because from so and so time to so and so time, we no longer allow registration, or on the election day, we no longer allow registration for people to register to come on the portal, just so that to reduce the traffic or the load that will be, so it doesn't collapse. Because the electronic submission of results is now the base of more like the transparency of the process, giving every particular person access to see as the results are coming. And from what I understand in the collation process, before, even as they transmit that result, it's uploaded, there is also a back end verification. There's what they call in INEC, they call them collation support and result verification system. These are personnel and support team, more like the tech teams that support the collation centers, to ensure that everything that comes out on that portal has been verified. So people have asked the question, in the general election, there is 8,900 and over 8,900 wards across Nigeria. INEC, do they have that manpower to have 8,900 of their staff doing collation work? No, they don't have. Now, the people in the collation support and result verification system are supposed to be INEC, who are supposed to do the final verification before that result comes out. Because once that result comes out, is assumed that is what will be used to declare results.
Sorry, Sambo, before you go, there are also a point about where we allow the political parties to be comfortable in indolence. And what do I mean by that? If you have party agents in the polling unit, the results are polling unit centric. The results are brought out from the polling unit. There is no law that says you cannot compute your own results.
That's through the parallel voter tabulation. Like we saw some of the political parties setting up their own situation.
No, they set up all those things. It is a place, there is nothing going on there. If you go there, you'll be amazed. I'm serious. So
aren't their agents supposed to fill them in with those results?
Because we over-respect the political parties, we don't call them out.
Exactly.
We don't call them out. We always, you see, if you have conversations about elections, 90% of the time we are focused on INEC. And these guys are comfortable. That's why I said they are comfortable in indolence. They are not doing anything. The results, before we got to IRF, before we got to Beavers, there was the people's result sheet that was pasted on every polling unit. Yeah, it is the job of the party agent to insist that that result is pasted, and then you can snap it if you have anything you call situation room.
Yeah, with your phone, you just wire it to your situation room.
Now, let me give you, as people who observe elections, you'll be so shocked that in many polling units, the same people are working for all the political parties. One agent is the agent of PDP, agent of APC, agent of...
That must be a good source of money on election day.
You are shocked. So they are not doing their work, and we must, going to 2023, also pay attention to the political parties and the way they react to the reforms in the electoral process.
Okay, you have raised a very critical point, because I monitored some elections in the past myself as a journalist, and I saw that apart from APC, PDP, maybe one or two other big parties, maybe like APGA or so, the remaining political parties don't have agents anywhere. Maybe just in the city center, and that's it. So some of those political parties actually count on the PDP or APC agents to even be able to help them with some information.
It has something to do with membership.
Because if you have 127,000 polling units, how many political parties have money to pay agents?
The political parties don't have members. We are just pretending about it. You see, one political party has had difficulty doing biometric registration of their members. The reason why it failed is because there are no members.
They don't have.
Do you understand this? If you go to many of them, the voter registers are cooked, the party registers, you can wake up this morning, you become a member. So there are no authentic party membership register. Because party agents are supposed to be members of your political parties. Somebody can be PDP for House of Rep elections, and then he's APC party agent for governorship election, and then you are amazed.
I mean, I was told of someone who was still in APC, but he was nominated by NMPP in a different state. I mean, he hasn't left APC, and they were even thinking of giving him a ticket. I mean,
I know this was one of the challenges of that.
Okay, gentlemen, just before we round up this conversation, there was this sort of what looked like misinformation also going, that the INEC director of ICT, Mr. Chidi Nwafor, who had been there for a long period of time, who was recently redeployed, was redeployed because maybe some power players in the polity want to rig the elections and all of that. And we want to know, is that really the system? I mean, you have worked with INEC and you have seen some of these people. Some of those tech teams are units that are built individually. You have members, but they all work as groups. Could the redeployment of INEC director of ICT affect the outcome of the 2023 polls? Let me start with you.
So I know Mr. Chidi Nwafor personally. I mean, he's a great guy with a lot of capacity. But frankly, if INEC and the whole election is built around an individual, that means INEC has already failed. So there's a department, and that's the Department of ICT, and there's a full team. So I do not think, I think this is also the work of mischief makers. You know, because all of these things, frankly, is for some politicians just don't want people to come out to vote. Because the fewer the people that come out to vote, the easier it becomes for them to even buy more votes and rig the process. All of these things I feel is focused on trying to discourage people from voting, to have voter apathy. And that is not true.
Before election day.
That's not true. So Mr. Chidi here is a director who is working with a whole team. So redeploying Mr. Chidi, which is, I mean, INEC internal bureaucracies, I don't think it will in any way affect the 2023 general election. So I mean, people spreading that thing is
should we be worried in the midst of all of this?
Engineer Chidi Nwafor is not the owner of INEC. He doesn't own INEC.
Yeah, but there's a lot of tribalism that is already being read. People are saying that, look, because it comes from the east, there's no trust.
And in Anambra election, when it was going in a particular way, Engineer Chidi Nwafor was accused of being the one that made beavers not to work.
Yes, I remember.
So they didn't. These people who have now become the defender of Engineer Chidi Nwafor, where the same people who said that is the reason why beavers didn't work in Anambra. So we need to come to a point. They say, oh, he's been demoted. He's a director. The position of the administrative secretary is a directorate position. Yes. So there is no. In fact, in this particular case, he even has a whole state rather than just one small department. So it's actually a promotion. in real terms.
So we shouldn't read any ethnic meanings into it.
There is nothing to it. Even the INEC chairman constitutionally can be removed if a 2/3 of the members of the National Assembly by the presidential request, they can be taken out. So those are not issues. We build personality cults in Nigeria. We like to build personality cults. Sambo is doing so well. So if Sambo says I'm going out of they say why must he go?
Yeah, I mean, and if you understand the coalition process the way it is right now, you will understand that one single person in INEC, even the chairman of INEC, frankly, cannot rig the process.
Election has been removed from INEC.
INEC are just doing the job of managing the process, but it's no longer in their hands. So the chairman of INEC, and I say this boldly to Nigerians, cannot even rig the election. So I do not see how one person who has redeployed or promoted it's not possible. So Nigerians should prepare to vote. Nothing has changed. These votes, I believe, will count in 2020 general election.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel Njoku, who is the Director of Governance at Connected Development, and a civil society organization that's very strong on election monitoring and, of course, focusing on electoral matters. And, of course, our own chairman of the Partners for Electoral Reforms has been with us here, Emmanuel Njoku, enlightening us. He has always been following the INEC processes and procedure, and I don't think we can have any other better person to help us understand issues. We thank you so much for enlightening us. And of course, INEC continues to say that Section 60, 62, and 64 of the Electoral Act, signed in 2022, which is now operational, has explained everything about electronic transmission of election results, and there's no reason to be afraid. And my guests here have also said that the system has been taken away from an individual, and so Nigerians should trust the election results that will be coming up in 2023. Well, it's all left for us to monitor the process. Thank you so much for joining us, our guest.